So, it's been a while. Been a little bit since I've released a video, and there's reasons. It's now winter, as you can see, here in Canada. So the season's done. No more track day footage for any car. So basically, I'm kind of just gonna update you guys on what I'm doing and why. So pretty much the Mazdaspeed, what I've decided to do with this guy here is it is going to be getting the stock block swapped back in. So this is my built motor that needs an oil pump and maybe a VVT gear, but for sure an oil pump. Otherwise this block is okay. This block doesn't need anything. This is my OEM long block that came out of this car. It's still assembled, obviously doesn't really need anything. I need to put, fuel pump back on and kind of plumb it up, but otherwise this is ready to be dropped back in. So pretty much the decision I've made on what I'm going to do with this and for going forward, pretty much that it came down to what did I want to build, what did I want to continue putting money into for a track car. I love the Mazda. It's a great car, great platform, but it fell short in terms of a track car. There were certain issues that you can't really easily overcome. It's just the nature of the platform. It's the nature of direct inject. It's in the nature of what it is. The Civic, on the other hand, it doesn't have any of those shortcomings. The chassis is, in my opinion, better. It's a more suited car for this type of I guess activity. Time attack, autocross, whatever you want to call it, road course stuff. The Civic chassis definitely just seems overall kind of happier to do it, whereas the Mazda, it did quite well, but that was because I forced it. I made it do it, right? The Mazda was built to be, a good track car. The Civic came from factory as already a pretty decent little track car, little track package. So as I was saying, the Civic does seem to be a better chassis, more suited for the road course. And if I'm going to spend money building a car and putting time into developing it, driving it, I kind of want a chassis that maybe doesn't have a ceiling, so to say. BRZ, S2000, great examples. Civic, EK, EGs, EM1s, the older Civics, even the 8th gen, 9th gen, obviously the Type R, like these chassis, these cars, they excel on the track, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason everybody tracks them, and they're super common. Yeah, I've made the decision to go ahead and convert the Mazda back to a street car now. It's not going to be much different. It's still going to have the GT30. What I've done is I've sold both of my manifolds, the intake and the exhaust, only because the stock block can't really utilize those, like, I wouldn't be getting my money's worth, so to say. I would rather have that cash in my pocket. I can put that towards building the Civic, and then the Mazda will just have, how it was pretty much before this season. Stock block, GT30, 6,500 RPM rev limiter, or whatever it is, 6,800, and it'll be a fun street car to cruise around in. All my buddies have turbo cars, so Golf R's, Veloster N, Mazdaspeed 6, SRT4, 300 wheel, 350 wheel turbo cars. My Civic's not going to be really a ton of fun to cruise with those guys because it doesn't make any power, so on the street it's kind of a slower car. But the Mazda is excellent on the street. It excels. It's quick, it's got good power, good torque. It's going to still have the same suspension setup on it. I'm still going to have the big brake kit on it unless somebody wants to buy it. I'll sell the Stop Tech kit, but I don't think anybody's as crazy as I am to spend that kind of money on a brake upgrade. Just wait until you see the brake upgrade we're going to do on the Civic. That brake kit is nice. But anyways, yeah, the Civic is taking over as the primary race car, and the Mazda is just going to go back into street trim. Honestly, the biggest thing for me was basically the cost of running. This setup with the oil cooler and the balance shaft elite takes almost 9 liters of oil, and the oil I was running Redline, it only comes in gallon jugs, so you need almost 4 gallons to do an oil change. It was like 3, and then you need a little more to finish it off, and then you need top-up oil. So when a gallon costs $75, that's crazy. And the problem is, you track a car like this, even with an aggressive oil cooler, one track day and a little bit of street driving, and you need to change the oil. It's that simple. And to do $200 oil change every like couple weeks, that's that's like, you know, after 2 months I can buy a set of tires for the Civic for the same money. Do you understand what I'm saying? The Civic I can just run off the shelf, you know, Pennzoil 540. It doesn't care. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't cook the oil the way the Civic, the Mazda does, because it just doesn't generate the heat. It's not making the power, so it doesn't care. But even coolant temps, lap after lap, coolant temps, you know, coolant temps are the same as they are on the street. You know, looking at the knock counter on the Civic, you know, you're never going to see the knock counter go above 0. I've yet to see that car knock. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. And for me, having the, I guess, the stress and the anxiety kind of go away when I'm driving the Civic, it allows me to focus on driving. You know, I'm focusing on my inputs, on my laps, trying to find time, instead of constantly being like, am I going to go from third to fourth and send a rod out the side of my block? Am I going to crack a ringland on the next lap? Am I, you know, knocking up a storm? Like, these are thoughts that are constantly in the back of, you know, most Mazdaspeed owners' minds, because for some reason these cars have that reputation that they knock and they will bend a rod without any warning, and it'll be running amazing 1 minute and the next minute you'll have a hole in your block. And when you're trying to build a track car and you're trying to be competitive, you can't have that. It's not really optimal. Now, is this car a bad track car? No, absolutely not. The Mazda was significantly faster than a ton of other cars, and, you know, part of that might have been because of the build, the way, you know, the car was set up, the parts that were on it, my driving maybe a little bit, but the car is definitely a great track car. It's you know, a great car that you can drive to the track, turn your laps, and then drive home. But to go competitive, to take it to a, you know, a series and actually try to podium, because the nature of the car, it ends up in such a high class that it's just not feasible. And then, you know, the next steps for this car would have been to gut it. Well, it's not really the car for gutting. It's a beautiful street car. It's comfortable and feels great on the street, so really didn't want to get that far. So basically, this is where the Mazda build for the road course ends and the Civic build begins. The Mazda will still be around in some capacity. It'll be, like I said, the street cruiser. Should just be a fun, carefree car that I can turn on and go for a drive without having to worry about oil temps and oil pressure and checking all my monitors all the time. I just want to go back to driving it and enjoying it and tracking something that, you know, has a higher ceiling and gives less, you know, stress on track. It just seems happier overall. The car doesn't care as much, and you know, it's less stress for me. So yeah, the Mazda will still be on the channel, but it won't be the primary focus. It won't be the primary build anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and do the swap and, you know, get it back to running, and that'll be some work, but hopefully it'll be done before spring. At this point, I'm just swapping over accessories from this block to the stock block, and then I'll need a day for buddies to come and help me pull the motor, separate the trans, and then I'll have to move the clutch and everything over. But after that, that'll be it. So yeah, guys, that's, you know, that's the update. The Civic, you know, the Mazda build might be kind of coming close to a conclusion, but the Civic build's just beginning, and it's gonna be a good one. So stay tuned for that if you're into 8th gen Civics and K series and all the fun stuff that we'll do with that car.